As far back as I can remember, I dreamt of a normal life. A life filled with normal things. A life where monsters don't live in closets or under the bed. A life where ghosts aren't real. I just wanted to be normal. But that didn't happen. It wasn't meant to be. Since my early 20s, I have experienced profound paranormal events that would change my life. Extreme poltergeist activity, living amongst those that have departed this earth in ways unimaginable. It has affected my loved ones and children with no end in sight. I could hear things, see things, and feel things not of this world. I asked myself if this was a gift or a curse. With the help of my mother and close friends, I emerged a paranormal investigator. Since 2013, I have been on a relentless journey to learn about the paranormal. This is my time to share my journey with you. Welcome to my Paranormal Soapbox. Hello and welcome to my Paranormal Soapbox. I'm your friendly neighborhood ghost hunter, Justin Brown, and we are presenting episode 66. And the topic we will be discussing tonight is, how can we validate paranormal evidence? What can we do to say, hey, look, this what I have is objectively true? So this should be an interesting show topic. There should be a lot of debate. I hope to see a lot of debate. I hope to stimulate a lot of conversation on the subject matter. I apologize in advance. I don't think the YouTube comments are going to show up in the chat, but I keep on trying to reload the chat app to see if it'll work, and it's not working for me. I can't see any of the chat, so I apologize. Hopefully Jess and Missy can see everything and help me out with that. But thank you for joining. Should be pretty cool. Feel free to stream, or not stream, feel free to share the live stream, and hopefully it'll be awesome. We have Jess and Missy here with us. Are you girls ready to talk about something you don't care about?
I'm ready.
Good.
Yes.
I'm glad you're ready.
We're just here for the ride, Justin.
I hear you. Okay, if you're new to the stream, and if you want to be shouted out, at least say hi or say something in the chat so we can see what your name is, and if you're there, please keep the chat clean, keep it classy, be respectful, and if you have any questions, just be patient. Missy and Jess will get to them periodically through the show, and we will address every, cool comment or question that you may have. But let's get this show on the road. It's interesting to think about how we could validate anything in the paranormal scientifically, right? Because the very definition of the paranormal states that everything dubbed paranormal is outside the realm of paranormal explanation or understanding. So here we are trying to do that. I think we need to start off by not only defining what paranormal means. We just defined it, but I think we need to define what we mean by what we think is paranormal, subjectively. And when we start talking about anomalies, we can scientifically measure and validate anomalies. But can we say the anomalies are paranormal? That's, I think, a conundrum that we need to talk about before we get into some of the techniques and methods that I have developed and learned from other paranormal researchers in the field. When it comes to something that is anomalous on a device, we can only use subjectivity to decide for ourselves if it's something that's not supposed to happen. I think the most general anomaly that we can get on the device that everybody can relate to is electronic voice phenomena. If you turn on a recorder and record some audio and then hit stop and play it back, if there's something that comes across that you did not remember hearing, then people say it's an EVP, right? But that is our best guess. That's very subjective. It's not a very objective way to do it. Okay? Since we are relying on our memory and relying on our lack of control, well, that's not the right way to say that. If we're dealing with our lack of control, then it's hard to validate anything when it comes to just using one single recorder. Okay, a lot of different acoustic energies and sounds can come across the recorder much differently than it does our ears. If you're using a recorder with a condenser microphone, it's very responsive to the high end of the hearing spectrum, the voice spectrum. So things can sound much louder and much clearer to the recorder than our ears. Of course, it plays it back to us where we can hear it much better. So with that being said, it makes sense to have the best recorder out there. One of the things that I can't stand the most is a lot of people think you need a crappy recorder that sounds awful, that has white noise and hiss behind it to get EVPs, because they believe the ghosts or spirits use that to speak, which is not true at all. There's no evidence to back that up. There's no reason to believe that. If any sound engineer or anybody experienced with audio recording equipment will tell you that the less detail you have, the low sample rate you have, and the less bit rate you record at, with the crappy quality of the recorder itself, will produce audio that can be perceived in a very flawed way. You can handle the recorder, it could sound totally different. Any other noise in your environment can sound totally different than what it should sound like. Even your own voice can be very distorted. So, not good. We'll start off there. So that's why I advocate the use of multiple recorders, specifically one recorder that records multiple channels using multiple microphones. And one way to validate EVP is to isolate a piece of audio on one microphone only. So that is anomalous. We can be sure that is anomalous because it's physically impossible to capture acoustic energy on only one microphone if they're all set up in the correct way. And what I mean by that is, if you point all the microphones in the same area, put them all in the same unit, and you hit record and they're all recording at the same time, there's no way that any acoustic energy or noise can happen in the range of the microphones only on one mic. If you use all the same microphones with all the same, settings and frequency response, it's physically impossible. So that's what you do. You have your control, you have all your independent variables, and you try to predict that one of the microphones and one of the channels will only have the audio on them. That is one way to validate an anomaly. You cannot validate if it's a ghost, your Uncle Fred, your Aunt Susie, your mom, whoever, your dog. You can't validate that. You can only validate something that's anomalous. So it is outside the realm of scientific understanding if you capture audio that way. So we can classify and define that audio anomaly as paranormal, but we can't validate whether it's from an alien, from a dead person. We can't do that. So there's limitations to what you can validate when it comes to EVP. We can talk about validating ITC voices on spirit boxes and stuff like that. When I first started, I used to think that, well, if you can replicate a controlled response, there's your validation. Well, that's not true. The reason that's not true is you're using your mind to subjectively identify what you believe is coming across. Okay? So that is not good enough validation. And if you have a bias, if you believe that you can communicate to spirits on this box, and every time you think you should get something that sounds close to what you should get, you're going to count that as validation. So we also use the same approach to the ITC validation that we use. We take only on one and not the other. Boxes or 500 spirit boxes. If you sync them with the RF, or they manipulate the device itself. Well, you can test both those things with this setup. What we do is submit it to a receiver that is plugged into another channel, a separate channel on your audio recorder. If you record something on the receiving end of that wireless transmission that's different than the transmitting end, then you can prove that RF can be manipulated. So there's ways to validate that such things. It looks like we're getting some serious lag. Let's see if I can. Okay. Yeah, I don't know how well we're doing on other platforms right now. I'm not watching it. But if you're experiencing lag, I sorry, guys. Looks like we're fine on Twitter. Might be a little bit laggy on Facebook. And YouTube, we're kind of laggy. So if you're experiencing lag, I'm sorry. But that's kind of where we can start talking about how I like to validate things that we can call paranormal. It should not happen. But we can't 100% prove anything scientifically, because we can only disprove something 100%. We can't 100% prove anything. An example of that would be the theory of relativity that Einstein has. In most cases, they've tested it over and over and over again, and it's true, but there's certain quantum situations where the theory of relativity is not true when it comes to gravity in very, very small scales. So it can't be universally 100% true. So even though a lot of people who are skeptics or science enthusiasts like to think that there's proof of all kinds of things, that's just simply not true. Nothing can be 100% proven, which is interesting in our reality, because we're kind of filtering through a methodology through a subjective tool. Our senses are subjective tools, and we have biases. If you feel like if there's anybody out there that has a methodology that is unbiased and unsubjective, science would be one of them. But we're very biased and subjective creatures that are trying to do things objectively. So we'll talk about that more. We'll do some shout outs. We'll get the show on the road. We'll see who's all in the chat and who's not. Who wants to go first?
Go ahead, Jess. I don't think Jess heard me. I have on the Justin Brown page, I have Derek Schreiner, I have Josh Bender, I have Liz Coy, I have Nelson, I have Crystal Lee, I have Sandy, I have Jamie, and I have Michael. And on RU Media's page, I have Donna Barry, and she's the only one that's commented so far.
All right.
On YouTube, Missy, I did hear you. I was having an issue unmuting myself.
Okay.
Sam Thomas, Betty, Val, Marilyn, Heath, Supernatural Lost Adventures, and Michelle. I have 2 questions if you want questions now.
Sure.
Val says, can you be too analytical when trying to validate the paranormal, which results are in extra footage of the paranormal being falsely debunked?
Okay, can you read the last part of the question, please?
Yes, which results in actual footage of the paranormal being falsely debunked.
So what she's
asking... Can you
pick
it apart too much is what I'm getting.
I don't know. I don't know. What I think she's trying to allude to is someone with a bias that the paranormal is not real can always find a way to debunk something or disprove something in their mind. So if you see a photo of an orb, the immediate conclusion you can jump to: dust, pollen, moisture in the air. It's not good to do that because you need to know more information before jumping to the conclusion. What kind of camera were they using? Were they using a flash? What was all these factors and information that we need to accurately conclude that that's what was going on? So yeah, you can, if you take the wrong approach, you can definitely do paranormal investigation and justice by doing that. So hopefully that answers her question.
Val asked also, as a psychic medium, can your confidence level interfere with the validation of the paranormal?
I don't think it can interfere with the validation. It can interfere with your ability. What do you think?
Yeah.
I agree.
Do you think it interferes with the validation?
Okay, then again, because you were breaking up on my end.
Okay. Do you think being not confident can interfere with the validation? Like validation would be, okay, if you're doing a reading on somebody and you're feeling like you're not competent at the time, do you feel like it's going to mess with the validation that the other person giving it to you, explain that? How would it mess with the validation?
Well, I think, if you're walking in and you're giving a reading to somebody and like things are coming to your head and you're not expressing them because you're doubting yourself, I think that's going to mess with the validation.
How?
Well, you're not giving them everything that's coming through because you're doubting. You're having doubt. Of,
So
yourself.
you're withholding information.
Correct.
So,
because sometimes the things that pop in, makes no sense, and obviously it wouldn't make sense to myself. But that's why you just you've told me just say it. If you're wrong, you're wrong. But I think if you have a self-doubt when it comes to that kind of thing, I don't believe that validation would be correct.
right. Yeah, that makes sense if you're withholding something.
Yeah, I do it all the time. I'm like, am I gonna say this and he gonna look at me like I'm a retard, and then I just don't say it.
So the withholding of something can definitely mess with validation because they can't validate something you didn't tell them.
Right.
So the element that is important here is withholding information from your reading.
Right. You have to be confident about what you're saying, or you're not going to say it. So you have to be, you have to be confident about it in some way.
I believe even during walkthroughs, I agree with Missy 100%. And even during walkthroughs, you have to, it's almost like if they're giving you information and if you don't express it, it's almost, I'm not sure, but sometimes I feel like this, if you don't express it, then it's almost like it's shut off. Like they just keep feeding you. And then when you're not expressing anything else, then it's almost like it's turned off. Like they stop giving you information.
So, do you think that when you start doubting yourself and getting into that frame of mind, do you feel like that's a disruption altogether?
100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So the takeaway from the responses you're given is you really need to get into a mode to where you feel confident and you feel comfortable with the process of psychic readings.
Mm-hmm.
You need to totally annihilate and eliminate any self-doubt and any distraction from your, your focus.
Right. Well, me and Jess had this conversation earlier on Facebook. The minute I'm okay, I can do my walkthrough just fine. But the minute I turn around and that camera's in my face, everything goes blank.
So how would you address that? How would you fix that?
I guess I just have to get more comfortable. I guess I'll have to set up a camera and sit in front of it. I don't know.
Well, the best way to simulate is to have one of us cameramen film you.
Right.
It would be completely different to set up a camera by yourself and do it, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, Joe always has a camera in my face, so I guess I should be a little more confident in it. But, and the lights. The lights just totally threw me for a 180. But your mother had mentioned that happens to her too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with myself, and I think everybody already knows this, I feel more comfortable during a walkthrough with Justin. And why? I mean, I don't know, but I feel 100% more comfortable. I feel confident when I'm with Justin doing a walkthrough.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that, Josh could, video me do a walkthrough that I wouldn't get anything. I just think, I think probably because that's how we started off. So that's just what I'm comfortable with.
Right.
I do have one question if you want me to address it. Sandy said if it's caught on film and heard on tape and seen with your own eyes, couldn't that be validation?
It could be. But this is some of the stuff I want to talk about. Our perception is very subjective. If we saw a shadow with our eyes and recorded it, yes, we did see the lack of light or what we perceive as a shadow, but can we validate it as something paranormal is the question. Do we know if, without a shadow of a doubt, if something natural was causing the shadow? So you got to have certain things like your methodologies. You got to go through a process of trying to figure out, recreate it. That's one of the best ways we can do. Can we go recreate what we just saw? Are there windows? Are there cars going by with headlights? Is it during the day? Is it during the night? What time, are you doing it? Were there other people in the room moving around? I know a lot of times Derek will see a shadow with his eyes and on camera, and it's the result of all the IR lighting and all our headlamps causing shadows everywhere. Our senses are so heightened during those periods of time that our mind can lead us astray. We see something out of the corner of the eye, or we'll see a shadow real quick, and our brains are designed to start inputting information where there's none there to try to make sense of it. So you got to be careful.
John Cool, Kesha Gems, an orbologist joins. And Dan from Supernatural Lost Adventures had a question. What do you tell someone who is looking for more validation than what people say about the paranormal? Too many people believe in things and automatically assume it's a ghost spirit entity.
Right. It's the best way. They're asking me how to deal with those people, pretty much.
Well, I mean, how do you tell somebody that is looking for more validation?
How do you tell somebody that's looking for more validation? Can you read me the question again? I'm sorry.
Okay. What do you tell someone who is looking for more validation than what people say about the paranormal? Too many people believe it.
Okay. Yes, it depends on what type of phenomena that they're talking about. So have them give me an example, because it depends on what we're talking about. I can fill in some blanks until they give us the answer, but if it's just a photograph, you can't validate anything with a photograph. You can't validate anything with 3 photographs, okay? You got to have video, you have to have multiple angles, you have to have replication, you have to have a process of trying to replicate and make sure that it's not caused naturally. Have them go watch Ghost Hunters or something to kind of get the idea of how you go through a debunking situation, or have them go follow somebody, a paranormal research group that does that. But it really depends. I really try to advocate how to do EVP research correctly, how to know for sure if there's an anomaly visually, either on the eyes or on a videotape. Okay. It's very, very difficult to validate anything in the paranormal. But
And John just said, and God forbid if you reply with something that they don't want to hear.
The worst thing you can do when you're trying to do this is think that you're right about something. Once you begin to think that you're right and you're tying it to some type of emotional state, okay? If you're investigating because you want to validate your own spirituality and you want it, that's fine. But if you're trying to validate what's objectively true, then you cannot tie any emotions to it. Once you do, you become biased and you start forming confirmation biases to what you believe and what you're trying to prove or disprove. What's wrong?
She's reading out loud, and I don't think she realizes it.
Oh, I know. I do that when there's a lot, so I don't mess up. But Heath Edwards said, wouldn't Jess and Missy not being confident about a reading would be like Josh not testing his deadlight before shipping it out? He does test his deadlights.
I don't know if that's a good analogy or comparison.
Sandy said, be confident in yourself, Missy. You and Jessica are awesome, in my opinion.
Well, you're human, too. If you go into a location with your significant other, your spouse, or your boyfriend, girlfriend, sometimes they piss you off. Sometimes you don't feel good that day. Sometimes your family member calls you or says something to you that day that pisses you off, upsets you. Sometimes you're just not in a good mood in general. That's going to affect your reading. So the confidence level is not the only determining factor when it comes to those things. You're dealing with a human being that has other things to deal with. And sometimes you just can't perform because we're human.
Betty actually just said, pull up Grant on Facebook from Ghost Hunters. He just posted a debunk pic of their latest place they went.
Yep, they do a lot of that.
Becky Compton and Daniel Everson and Christy Brown are watching on the Justin Brown page, and Adam Kimmel is on the RU Media page.
What's up, guys? Thanks for chiming in. Christy just got back from Cincinnati. Her mom just got dismissed from the hospital. She had surgery on her cancer, and thank God everything went okay. So, yeah, it's the first step is to trying not to have any biases in place. Any kind of emotional attachment to anything is bad. Even if it's in the equipment that you use. If you think your equipment that you use is some magical wand that is just good at recording EVPs, or this camera that's super great at doing this, or this other ITC device or shadow detector is great at doing that. If you're not constantly trying to debunk everything that you're doing and showing the processes of those things, you're not doing it right, in my opinion. You're not doing the field justice by that. And if you're not listening to all the peer review, constructive feedback on all the stuff that you present to the field, you're not doing it well. You don't want to look like, all these things that or people are coming at you like they're attacking you. You don't want to look like you're vulnerable, because then you start to see the emotional attachments to your work in play. Because the first thing that I'd do to you is, if I start questioning you and you look like you're responding to me emotionally, then I know that, I'm not going to take you very seriously. So, some advice comes up. If you got a piece of evidence that you think is your mother or your child, and you put it out there, and someone says that's bullshit, you're setting yourself up for disaster. So you might want to consider posting those things that you're emotionally attached to. So I think what we all try to do is validate to ourselves or to our communities that what we are experiencing in the paranormal is true or not. Some people don't do that. Some people say they investigate the paranormal for themselves. They don't do it to prove or disprove the paranormal. They just do it for themselves. And that's perfectly fine. As long as you feel like it's validating to you. But you got to understand, I've done a show on Paranormal Soapbox with the difference, explaining the difference between objectivity and subjectivity. So if you want to, check that episode out, that's an interesting episode if you kind of are confused about what is objective and what is subjective. But like I said at the beginning, we are subjective beings who do things in a very biased way. Our minds are constantly being wired for subjectivity and biases. So the odds are stacking against us every day as we get older. Yeah, go ahead.
Ew.
Whoever was about to speak.
I was going to say, Valerie says that Justin seems distracted this evening, something weighing on his mind.
Distracted? I don't think so. I know I'm very tired. That could be why.
Brian Baum just jumped on RU Media. He said hi from Bearded Paranormal.
Hello, Brian.
Sounds like something Josh should be involved in.
He likes that beard bomb. No one's asking any questions at the moment.
They are talking Ricky Bobby.
Oh,
Derek
shake and
and
bake.
Becky are.
Shake and bake.
Boy, this restream bot on YouTube is kind of annoying, and now it's not working. I was looking at another platform. We are trying to stream on Twitch and Periscope too, and I'm thinking that everything's going okay on Periscope. I'm not seeing any comments come in. I want to see if we're still streaming though. Let me see if I can check that. I don't know if we even are. Uh-oh. Hold on, guys. I don't have anybody helping me look at this, and my computer's not working very well on Twitter, so let me go to my phone. See what's live? Nope. Yeah, I don't even know if we're live on Twitter anymore, but I'm just trying things out, guys. I'm trying things out.
Brian asked, any thoughts on black-eyed kids?
Yes, I have researched. Yeah, we're live on Periscope. So, black-eyed kids. Whether I think they're a thing or not, they don't seem to be something that we can find a lot of validity in. But you got to stay open-minded when it comes to certain things like that. They show a lot of characteristics that would suggest that they're either vampiric or demonic in nature. A lot of people speculate that they're alien, that they're extraterrestrial. It's a very strange thing that I think that probably came from pulp culture. But I'm not an expert in black-eyed children. I've never experienced anything. I've had people report it to me. Other than that, I do not know. I don't have any other stuff to offer for that. What do you girls think about it?
I personally don't know. I haven't done any research on it. Val says she watched the video on YouTube on black-eyed kids. It freaked her out. Sam Thomas says creepy little SOBs. Betty says black-eyed kids are big in China. Yeah, I personally don't know. I haven't looked into it. I haven't seen one, so I have no opinion on it.
Derek said black-eyed kids talked back to their parents.
That was funny.
I said, or their girlfriend.
Yeah, that is funny. Yeah, I don't know about the black-eyed kid stuff. I can only tell you that what we perceive as ghosts even are probably not even close to what we think they are. And that kind of rings true throughout all the paranormal field. We think we know what EVPs are. I don't think we are even close to knowing what they are. Shadow people, ghosts, aliens, black-eyed children, everything under that paranormal umbrella, I just do not think we're close. And until we start understanding the mind and how it manipulates and augments our reality, because when I first started getting into the paranormal, I'm a big science geek, and I started learning about the double slit experiment, where photons and other small subatomic particles will behave differently whether you're observing them or not. And the waveform of our reality is very interesting. The way our reality collapses into its physical properties versus its non-physical properties, I think, is the key to understanding the paranormal. In a lot of ways. Maybe not all aspects of the paranormal, but a lot of aspects of the paranormal. I think that the many worlds interpretation and the parallel worlds interpretation of physics is probably true. I think everything has millions and infinite possibilities to them, all existing in their own dimensions, and everything kind of collapses in on one possible one as we're perceiving it at the time. And that's pretty crazy. Think about. So when we think that we have a handle on things physically, when it comes to physics and science and all that, I just think that's just a way to make us feel better. I just think we try to trick ourselves. Scientists try to find ways to where they can control these measurements and observe the reality the way they want to kind of make them feel better about it. And I think everybody, whether they're scientists or not, does that. I think everybody has a way to augment the reality and believe whatever they want to believe. Someone who is very pretty can believe that they're not pretty their whole life. And that's a good example of how our brains affect what we think, what we feel, and what we perceive as real or true. Validating what is anomalous is hard enough. We cannot validate whether dead people can talk to us. We can't validate whether aliens are in a spaceship flying above us. We can't validate whether Bigfoot's real, because we don't have a Bigfoot. So there we go. We can only validate what is supposed to not happen when it comes to recording devices, when it comes to physical observation. I have observed things levitating and flying across the room. And I know it wasn't hallucinating because there were people right there seeing it at the same exact time I was. So it happened. When I tell skeptics about this stuff, they say it's not physically possible. Therefore, there's paranormal in the world. We don't think it's physically possible, but obviously it is because it physically happened. So the takeaway from this show should be what we think is possible should not be limited to what we believe is possible or what we are taught as being possible. You should always be objective and open-minded to what is possible and what is real. I think when we start to get swept up in our own bias and our own close-mindedness, that's when we start to lose grasp of what's real and what's true. Our human nature is so good at tricking not only ourselves, but other people and what is not true. People believe in things that are not true across the board. Propaganda is rampant and very much alive in our politics and our culture. There's people walking around right now believing things to be 100% true and they're not. So I think there's a lot of examples in the news in our culture today that prove that even though we believe something and we see the opposite of it, I think we can deny that it's true just based on our belief. I think if you believe your child can do no wrong and the teacher keeps calling you and emailing you saying they're bad, you can disbelieve all that and still believe and not see what your child's doing. I mean, do you girls have anything to say about this? I mean, it's kind of interesting to think about the psychology of how to objectify reality. Are you following what I'm saying at all?
You're breaking up on my end.
I am.
You sound like a robot, and I don't know if I thought you answered Val's question, but I don't know if you did. Yeah, so it's like every 45 seconds there's a couple words that jumble. That might just be on my end. I'm not sure.
It's not on my end.
Okay.
So what was Val's question?
How can you validate something paranormal if you have not experienced it or don't have knowledge of it? Like black-eyed kid, I had never heard of that until I saw that video.
You can't validate it. Yeah, you must have a weak connection because you're breaking up. Is she breaking up with you, Missy?
Yeah.
So it must be my end.
It's on your end.
Betty had a question, but I don't want to butcher that word.
Betty
They're
Kegley?
not popping up on the screen, so I can't see it.
Yeah, it's
see if I can find it.
It's what do you think about something houses in Japan?
Betty asked me if I've seen a living person levitate. No, I have not. I'll answer that one.
Okay. Yep. We gotta keep going up.
Keep going up? All right. How far up is it?
It's where 1, 2, 3, 3 above the last time I commented, I believe, about asking your question.
Can you spell the word that you can't pronounce?
Stigmat.
Stigmatize.
There you go. What do you think about stigmatized houses in Japan? Houses will sit empty for years if someone died in it.
Never heard of that. Stigmatize houses in Japan. Okay, this is new to me. I'm going to learn something here. A property where the former tenant died or unnatural causes such as a suicide, murder, or neglect is known as a jikobuken, a stigmatized property. So the question, read the question again to me.
What do you think about stigmatized houses in Japan? Houses will sit empty for years if somebody died in it. City just joined.
That's just because of a strong superstitious belief that can be a recipe for a haunting or a bad omen or bad luck. So that's a cultural thing.
The retro gaming join. Cities joins.
What's up, everyone?
The retro gaming, do you believe in the Ouija boards?
They do exist. Do I believe that they do what people think they do? No. Absolutely not. There is a experiment that I saw on Brain Games. It's the best experiment I've seen on TV. Let's bring it up. Bring it up. On YouTube. Give me a minute. And we'll show you people that have not seen it. Brain Games Ouija board experiment. Okay. Hold on, let me activate my... I gotta unhide all my stuff. Desktop audio, there we go. Are they not hearing anything? I have the desktop audio on. Oh, that's really frustrating. Okay. No, they're not hearing anything. Okay, let's see if I can fix this. The desktop audio is on. No sound. Interesting. Interesting. Okay, let's see here. That's not good. This is really frustrating. I click a button, it's supposed to work, and it doesn't work. How do I fix something that's not broken? Let me go to my sound settings. Speakers, high definition. Settings. Audio. Aha! I see why it's not working. There. We'll fix it for you. Let's see if it works now. There's a delay, so hopefully they can let me know if they hear it. Nope.
You cannot hear it.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me.
Post the link up.
Audio. Output. Audio. Wow, okay. I didn't expect a... Nope, not kidding, Justin Brown. I don't know if they'll watch it, but I can post it. I can post it. There.
Valerie says, can anyone in the chat read lips? Maybe we can play on words.
I don't know why it's not working.
I know sign language, but I can't read lips.
I don't know why it's not working. It's supposed to work, but it's not.
Gen All 7's showing.
What's up? Yeah, I have no idea why it's not working. But the premise of the video is they ask everybody if they believe in the Ouija board. Some of them say yes, some of them say I don't know. They do a Ouija board session. It spells some words. A lot of them are pretty freaked out when they're like, wow, that's crazy. And then they asked them all to be blindfolded. And they did the same thing. And when the planchette moved around, it didn't spell anything. And once they watched back the video back of themselves being blindfolded, they are amazed that the experiment showed that they themselves were moving the planchette when they believed that they weren't. So that is a good example of how the Ouija board has been disproven and how it's not a very good method at all to communicate with spirits. With that being said, the intent of trying to communicate with spirits using a Ouija board can, in fact, cause things indirectly. But it has nothing to do with spirits going through you to move the planchette to spell out things. But that's what I feel. That's what I believe. You can watch the video, and I think it's really good proof of how Ouija boards operate. I really wish I could show the video. I turned the desktop audio on, but nothing works. It's usually how my life goes.
Dan says you need to smack it or punch it. Kind of like the Russians in Armageddon movie.
How do you smack and punch software? Wish I could do that. So yeah, hey Donna, what's going on? I see you there. Got to get back to work. That's all right, Freddie. Thanks for joining us. Sandy's she wanted to read lips, but they're moving the camera too fast. Yeah, I wouldn't want to try to read lips at all.
Christy said I only know one type of sign language. I said yes, and I've seen it in action.
The Retro Gaming says, what about a spirit box?
What about it?
I'm assuming to debunk it? I'm
or
not sure.
Validate it? Or
validate it.
We don't use spirit boxes anymore. When we do use them, we just tune to a station that's not broadcasting anything and to produce white noise. Spirit boxes... Here we go. You're taking a radio and you're sweeping the spectrum of the AM and FM band to produce audio bits. I don't know why you would do that. After researching it for 5 or 6 years, I don't understand why people do that. But you're producing a field of pareidolia. You're going to hear all sorts of things out of that. You can validate it with certain setups, and I can link you a video that I did on how to validate the two main ideas behind why people believe that spirit boxes can communicate with the dead. If you give me a moment, go to playlists and methods and equipments and theories. We'll pause that and we'll go to Tech Talk. Which one is it? ITC Hypothesis 101. I believe that is it. Up. Okay. See if this is it. It should be. Copy video URL. Put it in there. This is the video, what it looks like. It is called TikTok Live EBP Episode 5. TikTok Live Episode 5, ITC Hypothesis 101. And what you can see here, the chat's in a way. Here, let me see if I can take that out for a second. But you got a 4-channel PCM recorder. You have 2 SB7s that are running in sync together. You send them to the recorder independently on other channels and see if one does something that the other one doesn't do. That would prove an internal manipulation of the device. And then you split it out and run it through the wireless transmitters, and you record what comes in before the transmission and after the transmission to see if something can be manipulated over between the 2 transmitters and receivers. And that is one way that you can validate the 2 hypotheses there. So you're only seeking deviation and anomalous things. It doesn't tell you that ghosts talk to you at all. It doesn't tell you that it's anything but not supposed to be there. Is validation a black and white thing, or do you think of it as more of a degree of certainty?
He asked another question up above that too.
That's a good way to put it, Brandon. Go ahead. You can ask that one.
The question was how do you validate paranormal evidence?
It depends on what you're talking about. You can only validate some things in a certain way. You can't validate that something's a ghost. You can validate that something is paranormal, which a general definition of paranormal is something that cannot be explained through the scope of science, using science. So, using science to investigate the paranormal should be contradictory. But the reason I do it and many others believe that is paranormal is defined incorrectly. So once you throw out that definition of the paranormal, all bets are off. You have to redefine what the paranormal is. So not only are you dealing with things that possibly can't be validated using science, if you think that it can be validated using science, then you don't subscribe to the definition of what people believe paranormal is. So there you go. I think you can only validate certain things in the paranormal.
I have 2 questions.
Okay.
Betty would like to know, what about when a spirit box seems to be answering your questions?
If that's validation, no, I don't believe it is. And until you use something like this or something similar, you're not validating it in a way that I feel comfortable. Meaning there's a certain level of certainty to it, like Brandon stated. You can't validate anything 100%. You just can't. You can make things very probable and decrease the amount of uncertainty with some things. Or you can flat out disprove it.
I have another question okay. Retro asked, is it possible? Sorry, my eyes went blurry. Is it possible for you to mess with a Snapchat filter that only captures faces, and can you get a spirit's face on it? Does that make sense to you?
Snapchat filter. Oh, okay. So
like the dogs,
if you're holding a phone that's supposed to overlay something on someone's face, but there's no one there, yet it does detect something. Mm-hmm. That's not validation to me. That's almost like saying that if you use an SLS camera and point it somewhere where there's nobody and you get a stick figure, that's the same thing. There's most likely there's a flaw in the algorithm of the actual app itself.
They also asked, I'm sorry, do you believe in black magic or spells?
I do, but not in the general sense that most people would think that I do. I think that it's very psychologically oriented. I think the effects deal with the mind, and I think the mind can then deal with physical systems too. But there's limitations and circumstances to those effects. And that's a whole nother show that we've done. So if you want to see what I think about that subject matter, go to YouTube, go to the website, or go to Justin Brown Paranormal Research on Facebook and go through the videos and find the one that deals with witchcraft.
I have a whole show on
that. Yeah.
Brandon asked, has anything paranormal been validated?
Yes, it has. But it does not validate the existence of ghosts. Things have been validated paranormal. If you want scientific stuff, the stuff on micro PK has been validated to where the statistical chance of people affecting the outcome of decaying atoms, our random number generator. There's people that go in there and see if they can flip the coin to tails instead of heads on these random number generators, and they've seen a statistical chance or statistical patterns that far exceed what chance should allow. I suggest you, if you haven't heard of that, to go look into it. See if I can point you in the right direction real quick. Micro PK experiments. Okay, micro PK. A simple definition of psychokinesis is the apparent ability of blah blah blah. We already know what it is. I want. Is this something from the actual? No. There is a website. Okay, here, copyright 1993, a journal of parapsychology, reproduced with permission to purchase a complete issue, right? Journal of Parapsychology, 402 North Buchanan Boulevard, Durham, North Carolina. For copies of complete articles, where the genuine article ISI blah 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 observation of psychokinetic effect under highly controlled conditions. I can link this for you guys. Throw it in there. So, to answer your question, Brandon, yes, there is, but there's, other than seeing these anomalous effects, no proof or validation of ghosts or anything like that. This paper should lead you in the right direction there. It's 9:06. I know there's a lot of people that came in late.
I don't have any more questions. Well, yeah, I do. He just asked another one or made a comment.
Yeah,
anyway.
I've seen Radin's books, but I have not read them. Lloyd Auerbach is a good one. Parapsychology is your best bet on validating or finding evidence that supports PK and other parapsychological effects and phenomena. That's what I would look into. There are people out there. There's this one book. What's it called? Crap. I think it's the book you're talking about, the Radin book. What's the name of it, though? I will find it. He's a parapsychological researcher, has been the senior scientist at the Institute. Books. Real Magic is the one that Radin has done that I have been suggested a lot. Entangled Minds was an earlier one he did. There's another one he did called The Conscious Universe. And Noetic Universe is another good one. Radin's a good one. I would think Radin would be definitely a good one, but there's others. I want you to also look up Hammeroff and Roger Penrose on the orchestrated objective reduction theory on consciousness being a quantum effect too. I think you would find that be very interesting. Stuart Hammeroff and Roger Penrose. Look up orchestrated objective reduction. So, anything else?
No, I have nothing else.
Okay. We're all clear. Thanks, girls, for working through the technical difficulties. I'll have to figure out why the hell my desktop audio don't work if I want to show people videos. But I'm going to close it up. Thanks, guys, for joining us. It's a very difficult subject matter to talk about. That's probably why I kind of look like I'm agitated. But I'm getting better, or at least I'm trying to get better at bringing you guys these tough subject matters. A lot of people don't like addressing it or debating it.
Say something.
Yeah.
YouTube chat. Can you get, please, ladies, keep it classy, or I will be having to block people. Sorry, go ahead.
You could have just typed that. Why didn't you just type that?
Because I figured that would get it there faster.
Oh. Well, you kind of interrupted my outro there, but
Sorry.
That's okay. All right, let's try that again. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for understanding that this subject matter is difficult. We're going to go to some links that kind of point you the way. I've seen a couple new names in the chat, so if you want to learn more about our research, go to our website. We sink a lot of money and time into putting that information up there. So go to interfacedeath.net or .com, whichever you want to type out. If you're watching on YouTube, you can check out Justin Brown Paranormal Research on Facebook. Interface Death is on Twitter and Instagram. If you're watching on Facebook, please consider going to Interface Death Paranormal Research on YouTube and subscribing. It helps us out a lot, and it's free. You can also check us out on Discord. We have a Discord community if you want to join that. And Patreon and PayPal is a way to offer financial assistance with our live streams, with our video productions and documentaries. Patreon.com/support Interface Death is a way you can provide the content creator, which is us, some financial support and get some rewards from it. So please check that out. It helps make this content free and keep it going and getting better. And we have goals up there, so we can do things in a lot of better way. If you don't like how the Patreon system is set up, you can donate through PayPal, which is the link is in the video description. But Patreon is primarily what keeps us afloat. People like Clay Borman, Katie Turner, R.J. Murphy, Scotty Fox, Casey Schreiner, Jessica Bias, Paranormal Reporter, Heather Elliott, Joe Vitelli, The Ghost Guild, Kellen McConkey, Tony Felosi, General 7, Betty Kegley, and Cherry Capital Shadow Seekers. Extend your thanks out to them. They are the ones that keep this content available to you guys. And that's where I'm going to leave it. Tomorrow we're going to be talking to Dina Ray on the Necromancer Live Show on the same YouTube channel you're watching. But if you're watching on Facebook, you have to go over to Necromancer Live on Facebook to watch my interview with Dina Ray. She is a conspiracy theory expert who does fictional novels about things dealing with conspiracy theory, correct governments, UFOs, and all kinds of stuff. She just wrote or released a new book called Crowns and Cabals. I forget. It's dealing with the New World Order. I forget what the subtitle is called. But please tune in at 8 p.m. tomorrow night to check out that 2-hour interview with Dina Ray and see what her book's all about and what she thinks about conspiracy theories at large. So you guys have a good night. If you are new, you can stick around, see some of the video promotions and see what films are coming up. And you guys have a good night. See you next time. Do you have that drive? That morbid curiosity to explore the darkness? Do you have what it takes to brave the night? You do? Good.
Dead light. For those who aren't afraid to see what lurks in the night.
see you. What the fuck was that?
In every old building, a story lays dormant, yearning to be told. This is our calling.
I don't know why in this room. I'm hearing the train.
I just heard something.
It feels like it's train. Non-stop. I don't know why. I feel there was a lot of chaos a few times. A lot of hectic and a lot of energies all at once. Feels like there's an older gentleman. Like he's almost... angry.
So we walked out to the side of the house and we both felt like something was watching us. So at the same time, we turn and we look up at the tower and we see a man standing there. He was an older gentleman and he had, you know, like his cheeks were kind of hanging down and his gray hair was swept back and he had a maroon dressing gown on.
I do believe that I have some sort of ability, or genuinely I could be in this house all day, all night without any complaints whatsoever. It's just that comfortable. A lot of people think just because it's haunted and just because it has paranormal activity that automatically you're supposed to run screaming for the hills, but in this place it just feels like home.
I heard footsteps.
5-degree increase.
It walked away. It's behind you.
Something that I picked up prior on the photos that I've seen, I keep seeing a badge. It feels like some kind of tightness in the chest. So it feels like he possibly could have passed away from heart or lung issues. But I don't know if he was an officer here or kind of badge. I'm trying to figure out how to explain it, and it's just so overwhelming. It's just, it's a lot of.
Whoa. My camera just stopped. I just got a complete shutdown of my equipment.
My main story when I first started here, that's where I saw the mass, was in the basement doorway.
Showers in prisons feel weird. More happened in there than people getting clean.
Doesn't matter what floor you're on, what room you're in, you can get interaction. This is one of the most haunted locations that I've been to.
Just walk out of your cell. I'd like to see you. What the fuck was that?
This is Jason Bland, host of Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup, where we stream live as a webcast every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern, with guests who will blow your mind. Live ghost box sessions where you can call into the show to see if the spirits will talk to you, and the world wide web of weird with the latest in paranormal news and evidence. We're bringing the weird every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow and subscribe.
On Friday, September 13th, begin your journey into the supernatural in one of Ohio's most haunted mansions. Built in 1858, the Anchorage Mansion's dark history extends well beyond the deaths of its multiple owners. For 26 years, it was used as a nursing home, where many Marietta residents spent the last years of their lives. Join us for a night of history and ghost hunting you'll never forget. Your journey awaits.